abyss beckons with a chilling call. Come closer, listen to the shadows draw. So subscribe and like, and don't be afraid to dive into the darkness where the shadows are laid. Tales from the shadows will spook your world. Join us on this journey, let your fears unfurl. Stay tuned, stay weird, and watch out for what lurks in the shadows.
Welcome, friends, to the dark and the deep, where whispers linger and shadows creep. Tales from the shadows, where legends arise, with ghostly stories and myths that mesmerize. The brilliantly scary minds at TFTS Labs have been working hard to continue to bring you fantastic tales, and they have come up with some tales of dumb ways to go out. Today's tale is one of those stories. Today's tale, The Perfect Selfie, follows Claire to Raven's Peak as she hikes for the perfect picture. The wind howled as Claire stood at the edge of Raven's Peak, a towering cliff that overlooked miles of jagged rocks and an unforgiving sea. It was a popular spot for hikers and thrill seekers, and Claire had always dreamed of visiting. After months of planning, she was finally here, standing at the precipice of one of the most dangerous cliffs in the country. But she wasn't here for the view, at least not in the traditional sense. Claire was here for the perfect selfie. Her social media had exploded in recent months, and her daring photos and adventurous spirit garnered thousands of followers. She had climbed mountains, crossed rickety rope bridges, and snapped pictures in the wildest locations, but nothing compared to the deadly beauty of Raven's Peak. She could already see it in her mind, a perfectly angled shot of her standing triumphantly against the backdrop of the infinite sky and crashing waves below. The ultimate post. The warnings didn't matter to her. Everyone knew Raven's Peak was dangerous. The locals had a name for it, the Cliff of Lost Souls. Dozens of people had died there, their bodies never recovered from the turbulent waters below. But to Claire, the name was just part of the allure. She set up her phone on a small tripod and backed toward the cliff's edge, glancing over her shoulder to ensure that she had enough of the jagged drop in the frame. The cold wind whipped her hair across her face, and the sun began to set, casting an eerie glow on the horizon. It was perfect. The sky looked like it was on fire, a blaze of reds and oranges that contrasted with the dark rocks below. This was it, the shot that would cement her as a social media icon. Just a little further back, she muttered, stepping closer to the edge. The rocks beneath her feet were loose, and the cliff's edge was uneven. A slight, unsettling crunch echoed as her boots scraped against the stones. But Claire was focused, too intent on the picture to care. She leaned back slightly, ensuring her face, the cliff, and the sky fit perfectly in the frame. As her phone's timer counted down, Claire glanced up. For a split second, her heart skipped a beat. She thought she saw a shadow figure behind her in the phone's reflection, but when she turned around, there was nothing but the emptiness of the cliffside. The timer beeped. The phone captured the shot. Claire grinned, stepping forward to check her photo, but as she moved, the ground beneath her gave way with a sickening crack. In an instant, the earth crumbled under her feet, and her body tilted backwards, arms flailing as she tried to grab hold of anything to stop her fall. The howling wind swallowed her scream as she plunged into the abyss below. The world blurred into a spinning mass of sky, cliff, and ocean. The jagged rocks below loomed more extensive with each passing second, and then blackness. Claire awoke to silence. She lay on something cold and challenging, but the pain she expected never came. Groggling, she sat up, her vision swimming. She was still on the cliff, but something was wrong. The sky was dark, the stars cold and distant. The wind, once fierce, was now eerily still. Her phone was lying on the ground beside her, its screen cracked but still lit. The photo she had taken before her fall was open on the screen, but as Claire looked closer, her blood ran cold. In the photo, she wasn't alone. Standing behind her in the picture was a figure cloaked in shadow. Its face was obscured, but its eyes glowed a sickly yellow. The figure's outstretched hand seemed to rest on Claire's shoulder, as if pulling her toward the edge. A cold dread gripped her chest as she scrambled to her feet, glancing around wildly. The cliff was deserted, but the oppressive feeling of being watched crept over her like a suffocating blanket. Then she heard it, a whisper, soft at first, barely audible over her racing heartbeat. "Come closer." Claire froze. The voice was distant, yet intimate, as though it came from the very ground beneath her. She spun around, eyes scanning the cliff for any movement, but nothing. The whisper grew louder. "Come to me." Her breath caught in her throat as she backed away from the edge. But with every step she took, the whisper seemed to grow more insistent, filling her mind with a buzzing pressure that made it impossible. Are you a fan of Tales from the Shadows? Want to support the show? Well, you're in luck. You can buy some Tales from the Shadows merch by clicking the link in the description. Whether you want accessories, a hoodie, or maybe even just a t-shirt, Tales from the Shadows has a little bit of it all. So don't wait. Order your Tales from the Shadows merch now. Now let's get back into the Suddenly, her phone screen flickered. The photo changed. Now the shadowy figure in the picture was moving, its head slowly turning to face her, its glowing eyes locking onto hers. Claire's phone slipped from her hand and shattered against the rocks. She turned to run, but her body wouldn't obey. It was as if invisible hands were holding her in place, dragging her closer to the cliff's edge. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. Her heart raced, each beat echoing in her ears as the ground beneath her shifted again, crumbling away like sand. Then she saw them, figures, rising from the rocks below. They were faint, ghostly outlines, but their presence was undeniable. Dozens of them, the lost souls of Raven's Peak. Their hollow eyes glowed in the darkness, their gaunt, spectral faces twisted with agony. They reached for her, their transparent hands grasping the air, pulling her toward them. The whispers grew deafening, a symphony of voices that filled her mind. "Join us." Claire struggled, but it was no use. The pull was too strong. Her feet slid towards the edge, her body moving against her will. She could feel the cold, clammy touch of the lost souls as they latched onto her, dragging her down, down, down into the abyss. Her last thought before the darkness swallowed her was that she had finally become part of the perfect shot. The next day, hikers found Claire's phone shattered on the rocks at the edge of Raven's Peak. There was no sign of her body, just an empty void where she had once stood. The only clue was the final photo on her phone, a haunting image of Claire smiling at the cliff's edge. But behind her, barely visible in the shadows, was the figure of a man. His glowing eyes stared into the camera, his hand resting on Claire's shoulder. The legend of Raven's Peak grew that day. They say the cliff claims those who come too close, luring them in with promises of the perfect selfie. But once you take that picture, lost souls reach out from the abyss, pulling you into their world forever. So remember, no matter how good the shot is, you must be careful when finding the perfect selfie. If it puts your life in danger, it's not worth it. Don't stand too close to the edge when trying to get that selfie, as it may become your final selfie. That's going to do it for this tale. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss a story. And don't forget to comment your favorite tale. You may just see it here on Tales from the Shadows. Until next time, stay tuned, stay weird, and watch out for what lurks in the shadows.
This has been Tales from the Shadows, where the shadows speak the stories that will make you weak. Join us on this journey into the unknown. shadows where fear is shown. So subscribe and like, and don't be afraid to dive into the darkness where the shadows are laid.